Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome our brothers and sisters to today's pre-iftar lecture, which is entitled a summary of the fiqh of fasting. I'd like to ask our brothers, inshallah, we come close together, as was the practice of the companions, the Sahaba, Ridwan alayhim jami'an, may Allah be pleased with them all. Also, it brings our hearts closer together. And of course, if you remember the hadith regarding those who sit in a circle of knowledge, who come together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how the angels gather around them and they encircle them with their wings, with their tips over each other. And then these angels, in such a fashion, their ranks rise up towards the heavens. And then Allah's mercy and forgiveness is upon all of us, inshallah. Tayyib, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. The topic itself, mashallah, I mean, to summarize the fiqh of fasting, in comparison, when we deliver this course as a whole day lecture consisting of 9 lessons, to put it into an hour and a bit is quite a tall order, I think. But inshallah, we'll try to do our best. We'll take some parts. Of course, we won't be able to go into every aspect. That would take, as I said, 9 different lectures to do that. But we'll concentrate on some of them. I'd like to begin first and foremost with reminding ourselves of why we fast. No. Let's start in a different way. Why don't you remind me? I see people getting worried now. Tayyib. Anybody? Why do we fast? Anybody? Basic answers. I'm not looking for detailed answers. Our brother says, because it's prescribed for us. Prescribed by who? By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any other answers? What's its importance? In terms of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where does it have its placing? It's one of the pillars of Islam, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, that we fast in the month of Ramadan. Okay. Here's, again, a very simple question. How do we start our fast? How does the fasting start? Anybody? Jazakallah khair. It starts with the intention. Our actions must be based upon intentions. Yes, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Indeed, actions are but by intentions. So here the very, very first thing has to be the intention. If you didn't intend, you're not going to get reward for it. Simple as that. That intention is how we wake up, we say, I'm going to fast for Allah. Is that right? Brothers, who agrees? Put your hands up. Don't be shy. Nobody agrees with me. Sorry, brother, you're on your own. Why the rest of you disagree? Why do you disagree, akhi?
Dua you read when you fast.
Dua you read? No, let me rephrase myself. I said, we get up and we say we're fasting for Allah. That phrase I just said, we say. I'll bring it back.
Because Allah said, وَإِنَّ الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ.
Yes. Okay. The Prophet said that the actions are by intentions. But the phrase that I said here, I said, we get up and we say meaning speech-wise. That was a hint there. Jazakallah khair. The intention is in the heart. It's not on the tongue. So we have to make sure our actions are correct. Even when it comes to our intention, many people, they will actually say, for example, in the salah, 4 salah for dhuhr they're praying, or 2 salah for salah al-jum'ah. They actually say that, you can hear them whispering it or quietly audible. So of course that intention is not to be spoken. That is not the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The intention, an-niyyah fil qalb, the intention is in the heart, not spoken on the lips. So this is the first step of the fast, of course. It is the intention. Okay, we got to the intention. When? MashaAllah. Brother saying before Maghrib. You mean the Maghrib before Ramadan starts? Or after fasting? Okay, let's take it. I mean, if it was the beginning of Ramadan, let's say we find out tomorrow was Ramadan, then you're right. The day before, for Maghrib. And that intention can be for the whole of Ramadan. Even though some scholars said that you have to make a fresh intention for every single day. But if you intended before Ramadan that I will fast a continuation of Ramadan, then that's sufficient. Except if you broke that for some reason or other, you were traveling or you were ill and you had to have a break in between, so you could not fast the whole month of Ramadan. Therefore here, as soon as you're better, as soon as you become muqim resident again, then you need to renew that intention that you will fast till the end of Ramadan. So the intention has to be there. Okay, so we've got the intention. Now, we've entered into Ramadan bifadlillah. What next?
Eat sahri.
Of course. Long days, short nights. In the summer here. You need to have some energy for the day, otherwise you're going to collapse and fall. And in fact, this is what we are encouraged to do, to take these suhoor, take these sahri. And in fact we have the ayat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ ثُمَّ أَتِمُّوا الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. And eat and drink until the white thread of dawn appears to you distinct from the black thread, the darkness of night. Then complete your fasts until the nightfall. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a command. He gave us an indication. When is that start of the fast? When is it the last time that you can eat for your suhoor? And that is from the white thread of dawn appearing. Now, when this ayah was first revealed, some of the companions, what they used to do, they used to have a black thread and a white thread, and they wake up. And in the night time, when they could distinguish between the white thread and the black thread, they would then make their fast. But of course, this was incorrect, and the Prophet ﷺ explained to them that this is not the case, but rather the white thread of dawn means that when you look on the horizon, just before, at that time of Fajr, you'll see the light coming as a flat line, horizontal line, because it's called subsadiq, the true dawn. There's subkadhib. Subkadhib is the false dawn. There's two types. So the first one is when the light goes across. This is the one that we're looking for. Along the horizon, a very thin white line comes across. That is the true time for which your fasting starts from. When that is seen, or when the mu'adhin sees it and he makes it adhan, or you look according to your timetables here, because we don't hear the mu'adhin too much here, maybe one or two masajid. But in general, as soon as you find that is the time, your starting time for suhoor, stop eating, stop drinking. As soon as you know that is the case. In terms of the suhoor itself, it is virtuous, it has benefits. Scholars have said that the suhoor itself is not a condition in order for your fast to be valid. If you didn't eat suhoor, your fast is still valid. However, you're missing out on something which is recommended, mustahab. The Prophet ﷺ recommended something for us. And whenever he recommends something for us, we should take it, because he would never give us any advice except that it's beneficial for us. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Whatever the Messenger of Allah gives you, take from it. Take from it. Whatever he forbids you, refrain from it. Stay away from it. So here he's given us something. Take the suhoor. In that case, take it. It has benefit too. Scholars explain twofold. One is a spiritual benefit and the other is a physical benefit. The spiritual benefit is that you've followed the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And your ajr, your reward is there with Allah. And the physical benefit, of course, is that for your body. It provides the energy for all your metabolic reactions to take place throughout the day. Keep you going, stop you falling flat. So it's a twofold purpose of the suhoor. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that this suhoor is blessed. This is what I mean by its blessing. Okay, so now we've dealt with the suhoor. We've had nice suhoor. What now? We've entered into the fast. Now, we should know what we're allowed to do whilst we're fasting and what we're not allowed to do. Why? Because it is not allowed for any person to do an action of ibadah and be ignorant of what he's doing or she's doing. Why? When we do an action, we're doing it for whom? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, the action of fasting, we mentioned previously on another occasion, first and foremost, it has to have ikhlas. The intention must be pure. Pure for what? For whom? Allah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Say that my prayers, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي, or my sacrificing, وَمَحْيَايَ, and my living, وَمَمَاتِي, and my dying, are for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of the universe and all that exists. Our actions for Him. And that we've been commanded to worship Allah. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. That we've been commanded, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to worship Allah through sincerity in the religion. Ikhlas, first of all. Secondly, it must be in accordance to what the Prophet ﷺ has already shown us on an established sunnah. Not something we make up from our back pocket and say, this is Islam. No. So we need to know the things which are allowed. And of course, at the same time, those things which will break the fast as well. Some of the things, for example, pouring water over your head when it's too hot. No problem with that. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ was seen to do this. There's nothing wrong with taking a bath to cool yourself down. Swimming, okay, contemporary scholars, they said this is makruh. Because when you swim, you may swallow some water, even though accidentally it doesn't break your fast. But they said better to stay away from that action because it may, you may take some water, and that's why it's disliked to go swimming. It's not haram, but it's disliked. Better to be on the safe side. Also, so in terms of what we said, pouring water on your head, cooling yourself down for bathing and so forth, bathing, no problem with that. Applying kuhl, the black kind of like ithmir, which is brown or black, to the eyelids, or anything else, eye drops and things like that. All of these, according to the scholars, are permissible, even though if somehow some of them, because there's a passageway from the tear duct there which goes to your throat. So even if some of that was to enter into your throat, they said this is not a problem, okay, because the eyes themselves are not the passageway to the stomach. And of course we have evidence from the companions. One of them was Anas radhiallahu anhu, who would also apply kuhl to his eyes while he was fasting as well, and many other from the Sahaba. This is opinion of Imam Abu Haneefa, Abu Thawr and Dawood as well. For those who are married, okay, those who are married, it is allowed for the husband to kiss his wife, providing that the person has the control to prevent themselves going further, which would lead to nullification of the fast. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ did this with his wife. In fact, also once Umar radhiallahu anhu did this, and he went to the Prophet and said that, I've done something, horrible, a horrendous act. And when the Prophet asked him, what was this? He said, I kissed my wife. So the Prophet said to him, what do you think of rinsing your mouth with water while you're fasting. And Umar said, well, nothing wrong with that. So the Prophet said, that is then what's this question all about? Meaning, that's no problem, this is no problem. Jaiz. But as the scholars said, that it should not lead to desire, which will go further, which will ultimately break the fast. In terms of injections, scholars say, or said, that injections, whether they be into a vein or a muscle or any other part of the body, have a ruling. And that is that as long as that injection does not provide nourishment to the body, so vaccinations, for example, no problem. Anti-tetanus injections and so forth. As long as it's not an injection which gives nourishment to the body, they said there's no problem with that kind of medicine. Whether it's intravenous, intramuscular, so forth. Regarding cupping, when you have a cupping and take blood from you, there is hadith where the Prophet was cupped while fasting. However, there is also other hadith which are authentic which forbade it. The scholars have said that this, if it weakens a person whilst they're fasting, then it is disliked. The scholars, as I said, they are divided on whether cupping is allowed or not. One group, they did say it's disliked or it's not allowed. Another group allowed it. But as we said, to take the middle course, that if it causes a weakening, then we would not, or that the scholars say that not to do that action then. Rinsing the mouth and nose as you do in wudu, no problem. However, the Prophet ﷺ did say that when you make wudu, in general, we're supposed to take water into the nose to rinse it out. But when we're fasting, he advised us not to do it so deep, lightly. So rinsing out the mouth, rinsing the nose, there is no problem with that. Gargling as well, but not so deep as well. There are certain other things, such as saliva, swallowing saliva. Swallowing the saliva does not break the fast, contrary to popular belief. Okay, does not break the fast. There's nothing established from the authentic sunnah that says the person swallowed the saliva that it broke their fast. Similarly, according to Ibn Abbas, that if somebody tasted some food, okay, liquid food, for example, the wife is cooking and husband might get upset, if the food, some husbands are very picky when it comes to this. I've got to have the right amount of chili, right amount of spice, and salt and so forth. And even though he's fasting, he should be controlling his temper. But some men, they when it comes to their food, that's it. It's got to be spot on, or it's going to be atom bomb in the house. So here, a wife is allowed to taste the food, meaning just the liquid part of it, not like take a mouthful and oh, that tastes nice. No, that's not allowed. Huh? Okay. There is a type of gum which is chewed as well, not like Wrigley's or whatever. Not to mention, not to give any kind of sponsorship to anybody, but the Western type of gum. We're not talking about that. This is a gum which is, I think they call it luban. It's like a crystal almost, and amongst the Arabs they used to eat this or chew it. So it's not the type we have nowadays, which is everyone's like every single second of the day chewing away. This is a different type. However, that kind of gum is allowed, but the scholars, they said that the gum shouldn't be that which breaks into pieces. It should be gummy, so it kind of stretches and chews and it's moldable. However, there is disagreement amongst scholars who said that it's disliked, and this includes the scholars of the Hanafi madhab, the Shafi'i madhab, and the Hanbali madhab as well. In terms of the companions, the Sahaba, Aisha radhiyallahu anha, she said no problem with that. And the reason why is because when that gum is chewed, nothing of it as solid actually reaches the stomach. It's not a solid food source that goes to the stomach. It's just chewing. In terms of perfumes, now perfumes themselves come under two types in the Arabic sense. One is the perfume you apply to your skin or your body, your clothes, and the other is bukhur. Bukhur means the incense that you burn on a charcoal and the smoke comes out of it. Regarding this, Sheikh Islam Ibn Uthaimeen rahimahullah says smelling perfumes does not harm the fast, meaning it doesn't break your fast. And then he enlarges and it goes into other aspects. mentions about alcohol, injections, drops which are placed into the urethra, and anything for brain or stomach injuries. Some say that none of these break the fast. Some say all except alcohol would break the fast. Others say all except drops break the fast. Then he goes on to summarize. He says, the first opinion on this question is preferred. The most apparent conclusion is that none of them break the fast. None of them break the fast. The fast is part of the religion of Islam, and both the layman and the specialist must be knowledgeable about it. So it doesn't have to be an alim or a sheikh who knows about these things. Each and every one of us has to have this kind of knowledge of what is allowed, what is not allowed, because it's a personal ibadah, it's a personal form of worship that we're doing. Then he goes on to mention that if these actions have been forbidden by Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then the fasting person, if these actions were forbidden by Allah and His Messenger to the fasting person because they would ruin the fast, then it would have been obligatory for the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to clarify this. If any action was forbidden for the Muslim Ummah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would never have left it secret. We believe that the Prophet came, was sent with the message of truth, and he conveyed this message. There's nothing from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is missing or is not being conveyed. So if we don't find it with the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then we say it doesn't have an impact on it. And it based upon dalil, as Allah says, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Say, bring forward your proof, if indeed you're truthful. So for anybody to say this breaks your fast or that breaks your fast, they have to provide an evidence. It doesn't matter if it's a mufti or it's a neighbor from down the road. It is not allowed for us to make fatwa based upon our own desires or based upon what we think is right and wrong. It must be based upon the Quran and the Sunnah, the authentic hadith. In terms of eating and drinking, yes, in the nighttime hours from Maghrib until the suhoor, you can eat and drink. I don't mean continuously just eat and drink, of course. That's not really nice. It's over, it's indulgence. But we're talking about whatever you want to. If you want to break it up, you know, we mentioned last week in the workshop that try to eat a bit lighter after Maghrib. Try not to fill up all your stomach, because the problems will arise when it comes to Taraweeh time. You'll have a belly sticking out, you'll be tired, blood's rushing there, your head's going to feel light. So, take it easy, take it easy. And of course, the fact that you've only got a few hours to digest that food, and for food to be properly digested, okay, it takes about 4 to 5 hours. Okay, so we want to make sure that whatever you eat is going to be nourishing for you as well, not just excessive fat as well. So we eat and we drink until the suhoor. In terms of marital relations, yes, the husband and wife may have intercourse until the time of suhoor, until the fajr. It is allowed for a person who was in a state of janaba, sexual defilement, that they don't have to make ghusl until fajr. They can wait. Even if the adhan went, they can still sleep. Of course, the sunnah is to make wudu before sleeping. But it's not necessary that you have to be in ghusl at the time of fajr. But of course, if you're going to pray, you need to make ghusl and then go to pray. In terms of women, menstruation and post-childbirth bleeding, if the blood of a menstruating woman or a woman with nifas, post-childbirth bleeding, stops during the night, she can also delay her ghusl until the morning and still fast. When we say till the morning, meaning till fajr time, of course, because nobody, if they are, with that excuse, should miss the fajr salah. And she can fast. She must perform, of course, that ghusl before the salat al-fajr. Other actions which do not break your fast include enemas, eye drops, ear drops, the extraction of a tooth, treatment of injuries. All of these do not invalidate your fast. Also medical tablets which are placed under the tongue, sublingual, Okay, not the tablets you swallow. These are.
So I sent a text message to ask you whether brushing the teeth with toothpaste is allowed.
We'll get to that inshallah in a minute. So the tablets, for example, people who've got who've had strokes or heart problems, they may have to take a tablet which is beneath the tongue, and this penetrates into the membranes, into the and then into the bloodstream. So according to most of the scholars, such tablets do not break the fast. Also, inhalers, asthma inhalers, those suffering from asthma, they can take the inhalers, because this is not something which is of a food substance. This actually affects the airways. It relaxes the smooth muscles of the airways, and therefore it is not considered to be a nutrient. Anything which is inserted into the private parts in terms of a pessary or speculum or medical examination by doctors does not break the fast either. Neither does insertion of medical instruments or IUDs. Anything such as catheters, medical scopes, or dyes which are injected for the purpose of, for example, MRI or something similar, or for X-rays, they do not break the fast either. X-ray themselves don't, or anything, any solutions which are injected to wash out the bladder do not break the fast. Fillings, extractions, cleaning teeth. Somebody asked. A person may clean the teeth, whether it's with a toothbrush or a miswak. Some of the scholars will ask the question, what about toothpaste? They said it's disliked. It is disliked. They didn't say haram, but it's disliked. However, the best thing is, of course, miswak itself. This is sunnah. Yeah, so the mere fact that you use it because it's sunnah, you're rewarded for it. Secondly, it's pleasing to the mouth, and this is good in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the best thing, the miswak. We talked about rinsing and gargling. As long as nothing is swallowed, even the sprays, you get some throat sprays, as long as it's not swallowed, then no problem, you're allowed to use that. Oxygen, if you're in hospital, for example, for some reason, whatever, or you need to have some anesthetic gases, that does not break the fast. All right. Creams, potions, poultices, even it's absorbed into the bloodstream via the skin, again, they don't. If you've got any, if somebody had to undergo diagnostic imaging or treatment for any veins where a catheter or something similar was inserted, again, does not break the fast. Neither does laparoscopy or endoscopy, tubes are inserted into the throat for a biopsy, for example, to take samples. Again, these do not break the fast. In terms of the actions which are recommended whilst we're fasting, first and foremost, we recommend it to recite the Quran a lot, because this is the month in which the Quran was revealed. So this is where we should be using that time, putting time aside after every salah. We should try to aim for at least one Quran in Ramadan. This should be something we should try at least. You know, it's not difficult really. If you look at, one juz a day, you can split that between the 5 after every daily salah. But sometimes, people, even in Ramadan, we become very, very busy and work and this and that. So here, what would suggest is to have some kind of a timetable for yourself, whereby you sit for so many minutes in the day at a certain specified time. Don't have anything except Quran in that time. Alhamdulillah, in the center here, mashallah, we will be having Quran classes every day. After the Sheikh gives his dars, then there'll be a small class for Quran. Attend. In fact, not only that, we're hoping, inshallah ta'ala, but in fact, from tomorrow we will, inshallah ta'ala, an adults madrasa. Now, I know many adults, when it comes to Quran, they feel shy because as youngsters, they didn't pay attention. Maybe they kind of missed a few days from madrasa and had a trip down to the shops when they should be in the masjid. But inshallah ta'ala, for any adults who would like to start from scratch, from fresh, from zero, from tomorrow, bi'idhnillah, we will be having adults madrasa classes. It will be, inshallah ta'ala, between 7 and 8, bi'idhnillah. Okay, between 7 and 8, inshallah ta'ala. So if anyone would like to benefit from that, tomorrow, inshallah, in fact, every single day, bi'idhnillah, should be something here for that time. And we know that the righteous predecessors, the Salaf al-Salihin, they used to put a lot of emphasis on the Quran. Some of them would finish the Quran in 7 days. Some would complete it every 3 days. And some would complete it in one night. Subhanallah. That's how much effort and love they had towards the Quran. We should ask ourselves, how far are we? How many juz have we covered so far? How many ayat do we read a day? We should try to up this, the recitation of Quran. In terms of our taqwa, we should be looking towards refraining from those actions which are known as qawl az-zur. Now, if you remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, who talked about the action of qawl az-zur, where he said that whoever does not give up false speech and acting upon it, Allah has no need of giving up his food and drink. In this hadith, the Prophet said, "Man lam yada' qawl az-zuri wal 'amal bih wal jahl falaysa lillahi hajatun fi an yada'a ta'amahu wa sharabahu." Whoever does not give up false speech and acting upon it. False speech here is insulting, cheating, lying, gossiping, backbiting, carrying tales about people, insulting, whatever, and actions similar to it and acting on those actions. Then Allah does not need us to leave our food and drink. And this is why the Prophet said that there shall be some people in Ramadan who will get nothing from their fasting except hunger and thirst. There will be people in Ramadan who will get nothing from their qiyam except tiredness and sleeplessness. Is that what we want? So it's important to be very careful of what our tongue utters. In terms of performing Umrah, we mentioned this previously as well, that if you get the chance to perform Umrah, do this. It is a great reward. It's equivalent to performing the Hajj with the Prophet ﷺ. If you get that chance, if there's still an opportunity, go ahead and make that. Brothers and sisters, I want to go to another section today now, and that is making up the fasts. Now, obviously, a person who is ill is not required to keep the fast. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a license for the person to not fast. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. That whoever is ill on a journey, the same number of days that the person didn't observe of fasting must be made up from the other days. And this includes those women who are menstruating, those people who are ill, those people who are traveling. All of these people should make up those fasts before the next Ramadan. In fact, best thing is straight after the Ramadan, the 3 days of Eid, try to complete them there and then before making the fast of Shawwal. Now, here, if a person decided not to fast from the night before and he did not fast, okay? Now we know fasting is an obligatory action. Without an excuse, it's not acceptable. So what about if a person who did this action, he didn't intend to fast and he didn't fast? Can he make that fast up? Anybody?
Yes.
Our brother says yes. The answer is no. The scholars, they said that this is because that person didn't have an excuse. He didn't have an excuse not to fast. And the making up fasts is those who have been given a legitimate excuse. So his disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not allow him, and therefore that fast cannot be made up. Even if he made the fast up, this fast will not be accepted. If he had intended not to fast and he then decided, okay, I'll make it up through regret or whatever, Because this special permission is given for only those categories of people: the traveler, the sick, the one who is menstruating. If a person had intercourse intentionally, then of course this is from one of the greatest actions that nullify the fast. And the reason for this is because that one of the reasons why we fast is to abstain from our pleasures and desires. That the one who fasts, his intention should be that he's doing for Allah. He stays away from his fasting, from his desires and his eating and drinking for Allah's sake. So this person who did this action intentionally, this in the sight of Allah is a huge thing, and that's why it has the greatest punishment for it in terms of what has to be done to make up. And what is that? To fast 2 consecutive months. 2 consecutive months. Not 1 month, take a break, another, or I'll do it over time period. Non-stop. And it's no easy thing to do. Ramadan is tough, mashallah. So imagine 2 months non-stop. For a person who is ill and cannot make up the fast, they have a terminal illness, for example, or they're old and elderly, they would find it too difficult to fast. For those people, there is fidya, ransom. They are to feed a poor person for each day that they missed. So this fidya is only for those who are in the category of those who are unable to fast. If they were to fast, it would make them worse, or they're too old to fast, or they're unable to, for whatever reason, as a terminal illness, for example, cancer being one of them. So that is the fidya that should be paid by them. Regarding the woman who has had her menses, or who missed her fasts, could not, for those days that she missed, then she has to make up. No fidya, she has to make up. Similarly, the woman who is pregnant, who's carrying a baby, or the one she's breastfeeding, the same applies to her. That once she's stopped, once she's delivered the baby, when she's not feeding anymore, she should also make up those days. For those categories of people, there is no fidya, there's no feeding of the poor. They must make up those days as well. Moving ahead to our next topic, and that is in terms of the breaking of the fast. Many people, they like to wait to be sure, inverted commas. When we come to the end of the fast, those few minutes we should spend asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua, making adhkar, dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reciting Quran. And as soon as we know that that time has entered for Maghrib, even if we didn't hear the adhan, as soon as we know it's time, you see it on your timetable, open the fast. Don't wait. Don't say, well, it looks still, there's quite a lot of light out there, wait goes completely dark. No. This is not how the Muslims, in fact, in the hadith, the Prophet said that my ummah will remain up to be upon khair, upon goodness, as long as they hasten the fasting. So don't wait. You know there's time, Bismillah, khalas. When we open the fast, we should try to stick with the dua, which is from the sunnah, which is authentic related, even though the other du'as, however the scholars have said, they're not authentic. However, any dua is good, but the sunnah is to say ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله, that the thirst has gone, the veins have been quenched, and the reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if Allah wills it. So this is the dua. When we eat, of course, the sunnah is to open the fast with dates. This is the sunnah. An odd number, 3 for example, 3 dates. But any odd number. If you don't have dates, then the Prophet used to use a few sips of water. You can have anything else, milkshake, drinks, whatever, as you wish. But it's always the best to stick to the sunnah. Have the sunnah first. And, you know, in some cultures you find that when you open the fast, there's like a mini feast there, mashallah. You know, and sometimes not that very mini, it's quite large. And in some cultures they actually have a bit of a meal before they go for Maghrib. But, you know, sometimes what happens, people eat and then next thing you know, Salah's gone. Okay, we'll pray in the house. Okay, sure, the sunnah is that the food is served, you eat the food and then you pray. But here, the sunnah of Ramadan was breaking with dates, go and pray, Maghrib, as-salah ala waqtiha. The salah on its time, and then come back and eat what you need to eat. So that way you won't miss your salah. When it comes to the salah itself, of course, in this month, one thing we see, mashallah, the masajid, row upon row upon row, people coming for Taraweeh. MashaAllah. But where are these people in Salat al-Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib? Sure, they're there. We're waiting there. Any second now. Yes, take. Bismillah. But in general, where are the people? Ayn al-Musallin. Where are the prayers? It's not only in Ramadan we should creep out to the masjid or run out to the masjid and make our faces known. Outside of Ramadan, 5 daily prayers. 5 daily prayers for the men in the masjid, in jama'ah. Some people, they put so much emphasis that you've got to be in Taraweeh, that as if it was more important than the daily prayers. That if the kids didn't go, clip round the ear hole. As I mentioned before, the priority should be with the fara'id. The obligatory actions come first. The sunnah comes next. Without doubt, we should encourage our brothers and sisters to attend the Taraweeh. Because that Taraweeh itself, as a Prophet said in the hadith, that whoever prayed behind the Imam until the Imam completes his prayers, finishes, it will be written for him as if he had prayed the whole night through. MashaAllah, amazing reward. But as we said, it is not an obligatory action. It is something which is a sunnah. You're rewarded for going there. And we should try to make the best of this month, attending Taraweeh. Because for some of us, and let's be frank about this, for some Muslims, this is the only time they'll hear the Quran. Otherwise, it's going to be whatever music they listen to, whatever films they watch. But alhamdulillah, let our hearts get softened by the Quran. Try to find out where the Shaykh was reading from. Go home and try to read the translation of it. See what was being recited. Try to understand. We really need to go back to the Quran, not to abandon this Quran. This Quran is that which brings peace to our hearts. This Quran is that which guides us. This Quran is that which brings us close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're Allah's words. And if we don't read them in the month of Quran, in the month of Ramadan, the month of Quran, then when will we read these words? How will we take guidance? We read in the first ayah, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Guidance for who? Just anybody? No. Guidance for those who are fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is it that many people read the Quran? Many people whose first language is Arabic. Yet you see them in nightclubs, casinos, drinking alcohol. These are the people who know the language of the Quran. They read it. Yet they're far away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because they didn't achieve that taqwa. If you have taqwa in your heart and then you read the Quran, it will affect your heart. Otherwise, it will be like a stone, just throwing water onto it. No water will penetrate into it. Softening our hearts with taqwa. And this is, we said that Ramadan is a month in which we aim to build taqwa. Soften our hearts. Accept the Quran. Make it penetrate into our heart. So when the Imam, when he reads those ayats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishments, it makes our skin tremble and shiver. It brings tears to our eyes that we fear that maybe that's us who will be punished. And when we hear the ayat of Jannah, it also brings tears to our eyes because we hope that we are amongst those people that Allah will have mercy on us and enter us into His Jannah. This is how we should be feeling when we hear the Quran being recited in Taraweeh. In terms of its numbers, there should be no arguing, no fighting. It is a sunnah. And the sunnah of the Prophet was to pray 8 rak'ah and 3 witr. However, somebody prayed more, as the Sahaba did as well. They prayed 20, some prayed more. Some of the Tabi'in prayed 36. Imam Malik, for example, his sunnah or his way. Why? The night prayers to be prayed mathna in pairs, 2 by 2, until the Fajr comes, then to make it odd with witr. So if you're in a masjid, if your local masjid prays 20 rak'ah, then stay behind the Imam till he finishes. Don't do like some brothers did and used to do. 8 is a sunnah, we're leaving. The scholars explain that if the one who did this, he is not or she is not matching the hadith that whoever prayed behind the Imam until he finished, it will be written as if they had prayed the whole night through. So if somebody breaks that and after 8 leaves because they think they're doing the sunnah, in fact they've opposed the sunnah because they didn't do what the Prophet said, pray behind the Imam till he finishes. And they would not get that reward of praying the whole night through. If you're not happy in that situation, then don't pray there. Go to somewhere that prays 8, and vice versa. If you don't agree with somebody praying 8, then go to a masjid where pray 20. And at the end of the day, this is the fiqh, Islamic jurisprudence. We shouldn't be harsh with each other. Accepted opinions. There's differences. This is the ikhtilaf, the difference which is jaiz, allowed. And we should not use this as a means of separation and enmity, saying you're wrong and you're the people of this, bid'ah, and you do that. No, this is a matter, there is room to be easy with each other. The last 10 nights, brothers and sisters, the last 10 nights are the 10 nights whereby we should be seeking something special. Come on, help me out here. MashaAllah, young man here. Laylatul Qadr. MashaAllah. Why? Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. Indeed, we reveal this on a night of power, the Quran. And what is that you know? What is this night of power? It is a night of power which is better than 1,000 months, 83 years and 4 months. In this night, the angels descend therein, and the angel Jibreel, the Spirit, peace until the Fajr time. This night, imagine you got this night, the equivalent of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 83 years. That is more than a lifetime. Why did I say more than a lifetime? Anyone know? What did the Prophet ﷺ say the average age of his ummah would be? Between 60 and 65. So this is more than what we should expect. When a person reaches the age of 60 or 65, know that this is a blessing from Allah. Anything else is from Allah. So here, a lifetime's worth of worshipping on one night, if you got it. But here, we're recommended to seek it in the last 10 nights, because nobody knows when the Laylatul Qadr will be, because the Prophet ﷺ was made to forget this night when it was going to be. So he encouraged us to seek it in the last 10 nights, and more so on the odd nights, as scholars talked about. However, as the scholars explain, that Laylatul Qadr, possibly it rotates, it's never the same on every single night, and there are hadith to reinforce this view. So we should seek that in the last 10 nights, increase the ibadah, worship. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. He used to wake up his family members at night time, and they would stand for prayer. They would sleep less. The Prophet ﷺ would be more generous in giving sadaqah in the last 10 nights, and therefore we should follow his example. He would stand up and be firm. He would stay away from his wives, because it's well known that when a person has marital relations, then their desire will be towards that. But as part of az-zuhd, abstaining from these things, this is one of the things that brings us close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We forsake our desires, even though they may be from halal. And when we do that, we are gaining Allah's pleasure. And if you remember the ayah, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. So whoever fears standing before his Lord, being on the Day of Judgment, is fearful for that person, and he prevents himself from his desires, then فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. For that person is the everlasting paradise. So this is a desire which is halal. It could be somebody newly married. It could be somebody married from a long time. Somebody 2 or 3 wives. But they prevent themselves from that desire which is halal for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They sacrificed for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They wanted to taste that sweetness of Iman. Standing, fearful, with concentration before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Blocking out the world. Asking in the sujood for Allah's mercy, for His khair, to be saved from the hellfire. In these last 10 nights, this is what we should be doing. Because remember this, that we don't know. First of all, we don't even know whether we will see the end of this month or not. And neither do we know whether we will see next Ramadan or not. Nobody can give you a guarantee. Nobody. There are people, Wallahu al-Azim, there are brothers who prayed with us last year here, and today they are in the hospital. Doctors saying they may not survive. May Allah give all the Muslims who are ill shifa. That brother probably did not think for a moment that that could be him this time last year. Inconceivable. In fact, we know 2 brothers in that situation. One brother, alhamdulillah, had the tumor removed. Allah gave him shifa. But this is it. We don't know. We have health today. Tomorrow that health could be taken from us. So we should try to make this Ramadan as if this will be our last Ramadan. Just imagine if somebody told you that you will not see next Ramadan. Imagine how it would feel. Imagine you were told you would not be on this earth next Ramadan. What would you do? How would you change the quality of your ibadah? It's only if we put this into our mind and say, maybe this is my last Ramadan today, or this month may be my last Ramadan, I may not see next year. And you know, this is the reality that happens to many brothers and sisters, old and young. Don't think for a minute, brothers and sisters, that your youth, you have youth, you're middle-aged, you don't have grey hairs yet, mashallah. Don't think for a minute that you have been given a guarantee that you will see next Ramadan. In this month, brothers and sisters, if you're able to make i'tikaf, then you should make i'tikaf. And the scholars, they said, i'tikaf can only be in a masjid. In a masjid which has the 5 daily prayers established. In terms of when you go to make i'tikaf, time is short, I think we'll try to summarize in a minute. Of course, there is no sexual relationships between husband and wife in i'tikaf. Rather, once they enter with the intention, the niyyah, they should try to stay there. The i'tikaf itself, by the way, doesn't have to be the whole 10 days. It could be a few days. It could be overnight. It could even be an hour or so, or even a few minutes, even a few moments. If that is your niyyah for i'tikaf, then that can be, and you'll be rewarded according to your intention. So don't worry if you can't make the whole 10 days, maybe because of your work commitments. Even an hour in the masjid is i'tikaf. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the opportunity to practice the sunnah. I'tikaf is for whom? Not just the men, but also for women. Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to go and make i'tikaf with the Prophet ﷺ. She used to take a tent. But later, some of the wives came out and also set the tents up there. But in that situation, the Prophet sent them back because they were not doing it. Some scholars say it was not for the right reason. Others that it would have distracted the Prophet ﷺ. Allahu a'lam. However, if the woman wants to make i'tikaf, then she should do i'tikaf with the permission of her husband. Because it is not allowed for a woman to leave her house without the permission of her husband. And many sisters may be surprised to hear that. Rather, Allah's curse is on the woman who leaves the house without her husband's permission. So it's very important. Of course, we don't want to create fitna either, okay, because sometimes a person may say, oh, that's from the sunnah, women should go and so forth. But if the husband has an objection to it, the husband should try to, be happy. But obviously sometimes it may not be in the right situation or circumstance for the mother or the wife to make i'tikaf. Therefore, if she had the intention, she'll have the reward for that. Allahu Akbar. Brothers and sisters, with a few minutes to spare, Ramadan itself is that month we said which should be building our taqwa. In this month we should always be self-accounting ourselves, asking ourselves, what have I done today? Have I done good actions, bad actions? Have I been speaking good and words of truthfulness, or have I been lying and cursing, so forth? Every one of us, young and old, we should be checking our actions on a daily basis. Did I upset anybody today? Was I dutiful to my parents? Did I curse anybody? Did I hurt somebody? Did I hit anybody? Did I backbite anybody? At the end of each day, try to figure out, what have I done today? Have a kind of review of your day. And at the end of that day, make a decision. Was I on the good side or the bad side? Were my good deeds heavier than my bad deeds? Be honest with yourself. And say to yourself, what can I do to improve tomorrow? Okay, today I didn't read as much Quran. Tomorrow I should read more Quran. Or today I missed the salah in the masjid when I was busy with something I shouldn't have. Tomorrow I'm going to make sure I'm in the masjid. I didn't make the adhkar today, so tomorrow I'll do the adhkar. And so forth. Keep accounting for yourselves. Because by doing that, if you're accountable to yourself, then it'll be easier to see whether you are having improvement for yourself or not. If you just go through Ramadan not really bothering, just doing everything routinely, mundanely, yes, you'll get the rewards inshallah, but you will not be able to keep progress of where you are with your iman. So try to keep a checklist of things you've been doing. For example, a small pocket timetable of what you read of Quran. Put it in your pocket, put it in your purse or in your wallet. So you'll see. Today I read from this ayah to this ayah. Okay, tomorrow I'll try to read more. Seek the circles of knowledge. It is very sad that, mashallah, we have the Sheikh here, and mashallah, a lot of people here, it's the holidays, especially for our youth. Time to gain benefit. You can play soccer, PlayStation, Xbox anytime you want, but you'll never get the time of Ramadan except in this month of Ramadan. And remember that every single action that we do, Allah will multiply between 10 to 700 times. 10 to 700 times. It's only a foolish person who would not take advantage of doing righteous good actions. Brothers and sisters, I'd like to end here. I want to talk about Eid as well. However, I think the time will not permit us, and I'd like to give you some time to make some personal ibadah, do the adhkar, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before the adhan of Maghrib. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever we've heard and conveyed today may be beneficial, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to practice what we learn and what we preach. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it beneficial Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the life and the health and the strength to see this Ramadan and many other Ramadans upon His obedience. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our shortcomings, for the sins that we may have done. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase our iman and our taqwa. Whatever I've conveyed today which may have been wrong, this is from the weakness from myself and from shaitan. Whatever goodness of khair I've conveyed to you, this is no doubt from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وجزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفر وأتوب إليك.